Hey, Uncle Jesse here again from Chelsea. You know, I love Chelsea, Chelsea in my heart. Anyway, folks, I'm here in the Elliott Chelsea houses, okay, and I'm in the yard that's between 443 and 466. I always know that when I was a kid, I used to always call it the backyard because I lived in the other side. I lived in 446, and to me that was the front, and this was the back. But a lot of people call this the front. So I don't know, and I'm not going to start another controversial argument. But let me just show you what it looks. We'll call this the front yard for all intended purposes. If you see up here where I'm pointing to, used to be the Hudson Gill Study Den, and that was an after-school den to help kids. Okay, and that's 466 over there where those people are heading up. If you guys remember, it was very different here. Very different here. In the middle used to be like a big globe. It looked like a globe, and there was a rocket in one end, and there was a spider over here. There was a spider that the kids used to play in, and there was a teepee. There was a teepee right here, which probably is not PC nowadays because the way people are so sensitive. So anyway, I'm gonna bring you a little bit of history. Right here in these benches, actually this used to be all dirt, and the benches were out here, and this was all dirt from one side where that tree is to this side. Okay, and these benches here have been known for many years for the old guys in Chelsea that have played dominoes, and I nicknamed this place Domino Square. So today, folks, I'm gonna give you a little bit of history. Let me set this tripod up, and I'm gonna give you a little bit of history of what's going on here. So, okay. Oh, let me sit down. Okay, folks. So, folks, I'm just gonna give you a little bit of history of me, myself. I was born in these projects in 1963 to my parents who lived in 446 on the third floor in apartment 3H, and then we moved down to 2C. So part of my whole life was spent in apartment 2C, and then we moved over to 264. My parents lived and worked in Chelsea. My mother worked in a company called Tanner Graphics on 9th Avenue and 26th Street, and my father worked in the New York City Housing Authority, NYCHA, as a truck driver for 20 years. He retired. So anyway, I went to school in PS 33 on 26th Street. I went to IS 70 on 17th Street, and then I went to high school in Brooklyn. And right after shortly finishing high school, I started hanging out with a bunch of old guys who, well, they weren't that old, but they were older than me. You know, I was a kid, 19 years old, 19, 20 years old. And I started hanging out with them. And most of them knew me because they had hanged out with my father in his days of hanging out and drinking and all kind of stuff. So anyway, folks, so I started hanging out with them, and I became friendly with them. And they sort of were my mentors because, they were older than me. And some of them had actually been friends of my father, or were friends of my father, when my father used to hang out and, have his few drinks and whatever, hang out. You know what I'm talking about. So a lot of them took a liking to me, and I became like, they adopted me, sort of. And I was like the youngest one in the crowd. And we had a big group of guys. And I'm going to mention them by names, and some of you might remember their names. And beautiful people, beautiful memories. And we used to always hang out on Fridays. Like on Friday today, there's nobody here. But on Fridays, we would be here drinking and drinking and doing all kind of crazy stuff and drinking beer, drinking liquor. Some of us would be playing dominoes. Some would be playing dice in the basement at it, which was illegal, and cards. But anyway, one of what I consider the leader of the group, and his father-in-law was Pancho, was a very good friend of mine, and to this day I miss him every day. His name is Toño, and you guys probably remember him, Toño Hernandez. He was the son-in-law of Pancho. So Toño Hernandez is one of the first people I want to mention because I still feel the love for him. Of course, I'm going to start mentioning names, and these are people who I remember, and this was part of our group. There was about 28 or 20, more than that. And it was a big group that we had. And on Father's Day, I used to set up all the party. We used to set up a party down in underneath where the High Line is now. And we used to collect money, and we used to do these enormous parties. I used to bring a boom box, and I used to get music from my car, out of my car. I used to give out prizes. I used to give out t-shirts, hats, and all kind of stuff that I used to get from my job. So we had some very good times. We used to collect about $300, $400, $500 between all of us, and we used to have food and everything, and good times, very good times. So anyway, the first one I mentioned was Toño. The second one was named Pancho. Another one, Nelson Burgos, who was a long-time resident of Chelsea, and also at one point the son-in-law of Pancho. Also Bayobel, who cleaned up 425. He was the caretaker of 425, and he also took care of the laundry at one point. That was Bayobel. My friend Paquito, Paquito Piñero, who lived on the 11th floor. He used to play guitars for us, and we would be all drunk thinking that we could sing, and he would play the guitar. So, and then we was another guy, Paco Diaz, who used to clean 264, who was a very, very good friend of my father in his heydays, you know. So yeah, we met him. And also Paco Gonzalez. Paco Gonzalez lived in my old building. I think his wife still lives there, and they lived on the 11th floor. And Paco was a great guy, very great guy, Paco. And there was another Dominican gentleman that came and joined our group. His name was Tomas. And another one named Fejo. Very good people, very good friends. There was another gentleman that used to smoke cigars. He lived in 446 and helped out in the store in Pancho. His name was Filomeno. And we used to have another friend behind me, a guy named Mario. We used to nickname him Mario Pastrami. I'll tell you the nickname, how he got that later on. But Mario Pastrami. There was another guy in that building named Willie Marrero who drove a school bus, part of our group, well known and very well loved. Bobby Hernandez, a very good friend of mine, and my neighbor who's seen me grow up, lived in 446 apartment 2D. And Esteban lived in 450. He had a son and a daughter. He used to work in the co-ops as security. And Jose used to live in 264, very good friend of mine. We used to call him Jose Tablita, and again, we had nicknames for everybody. In that, you know, we had another guy. He was Dominican. His name was Jose. Yeah, I think he lived in 420. I think his kids, a couple of his kids, his last name was Gago, and I actually have his daughter-in-law. I think is a friend of mine's on Facebook, and I knew a couple of his kids, and he hanged out here. So Jose Gago, I guess that was his name. Okay. Benito was a gentleman who lived in 446 on the first floor, and we used to hang out in his apartment in wintertime because he was a widower, and he lived there with his son Alberto, who may rest in peace as well. And we used to go in there and play cards and play dominoes and drink, and it was good times we had there in 446. Another gentleman from 425, Carlos, I think he was Ecuadorian, Peruvian, very good guy, very good friend of mine, Carlos. And another gentleman lived in 420, raised his family there in 420 in the first floor at Equa. He used to hang out with us, all the time, drinking, and he didn't drink at the time, but he used to hang out and play dominoes. Another gentleman that I put a picture of him, Aramo, who used to be the bookie, the neighborhood. Everybody knew Aramo. Everybody played number. Another guy, his brother owned a restaurant on 10th Avenue, and he was the cook, Millito. Short guy, very funny, very good times we had with him. He lived on 20th Street, and then he moved to the co-ops, and we had some good times with him, very good times. Let me see. Another one of the group was called Garcia. Garcia was... Anyway, folks, as I'm going down this list, this guy's name is, they call him Doc. Doc is the new generation of guys who used to hang out here, Like I was telling him that we used to hang out there, a lot of us back then. So this guy is like the new generation now. And the group is getting smaller and smaller, but he's from the new generation. So, Doc, we love you.
Thanks for the shout out, baby.
Anytime. Cool. Okay. So, anyway, I'm going to go continue the list of people who used to live in Garcia. Garcia was a very good friend of mine. Actually, Garcia took me to work over at when I worked at the Intrepid Museum. Garcia was the guy who took me to work there. There was another guy named Nicolas that lived in 415. Many years, skinny, older gentleman. There was another guy we all know, most people know him as Paulie. His name was Porfirio. He lived for a while in 264, and then he moved down to the Fulton houses, Porfirio. Recently, a couple of years ago, he died. A very good friend of mine. He had a brother named Carlos that lived in 425 as well. A gentleman that lived in 415 on the first floor, Alex Montalvo. He had two sons, I think a daughter. His wife, Marina Montalvo, very well involved in the community and very good. I think he owned a grocery store, something back in the days, way back before me on 28th Street. And also a gentleman that lived on 22nd Street, we used to call him, his name was Bolivar, and we used to call him El Bolo. And he always hanged out in the grocery store with us and everything. Very good friend of ours. And we had another one named Don Candido Don Candido lived in 264 on the 9th floor. A very old man. He died. He was in his 80s. Very good friend of mine. He drank. He was an old guy drinking. And last but not least, another gentleman named Daniel that lived in 428 on the 2nd floor. He used to always be riding bicycles and stuff like that. So anyway, these were some of the people, and I'm pretty sure I missed a few because I had a list, and on that list I had 34 people. Now I have 28. But this is most of the people that I remember, folks. And I'm sorry if I don't remember them. And so these are all the people that are no longer with us. They passed away. And it's like I was trying to say is that I was part of this group, and I was the youngest part of the group. And now, unfortunately, there's only, excuse me, there's only 4 of us left. 4 of us. So, folks, it really saddens me. And even though I have great memories of these guys, hanging out with them, they taught me a lot. I started hanging out with them when I was like 19 years old, 20 years old. We did so many crazy stuff. Excuse me. Oh my God, I got like some allergies. We did so many things that one day I'm gonna try to write a book. Really, the things that we did were so crazy and funny. And these were old guys, and they acted like teenagers. They really did. They acted like teenagers, and they drank, and they did all kind of other stuff which I'm not gonna mention. But we had some good times. I had some good times. They taught me a lot. They were my mentors. Like I said, I was the youngest one in the group, and the other guys they were already in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. But these guys that I mentioned were all like uncles to me, and I truly missed them. And what saddens me more is that there's only 4 of us left from that big group of guys that I mentioned. There's only 4 people left from the original group. Okay, and their names are myself. There's Mariano Figueroa, Angelo Garcia, who lives in the co-ops, and that's it. Who did I forgot? So the only ones left again are A.B. Matos, Angelo Garcia, who's his brother-in-law, Mariano Figueroa, and myself. There's only 4 of us left from a group of about almost 40 people, and it's sad. It really is that only 4 of us are left, and it saddens me. So yeah, folks, so we had some good times, and this started back in like 1980, 81, 82, and it went into the 80s when it was wild in the 80s, and it went into the 90s, and to this day these guys still hang out on these tables playing, but it's probably kind of chilly for them. But they hang out here and they drink and they play dominoes. But there's only 4 of us left, and of course, some new people have joined the group. But from the original group, there's only 4 people left. I just realized that last week. I said, "Oh my God, everybody has died, and the only one alive is Angelo, A.B., Mariano, and myself." I don't know who's going to turn off the lights, but there's 4 of us left. Only 4 of us left from all those people. It's sad, huh? But that's what life is about. We had some good times. We had some, we had fun. We argued with each other. We even fought each other. It was just some good times, great times, and I would, if I could turn back the time of the hands of time, I would, and do it all over again. So anyway, folks, that's the video that I wanted to do. And like I said, I'm in the front yard, and let me just show you around a little bit. This big giant thing wasn't in the middle back then when I grew up, And I just wanted to make this video to mention some people, and of course, if I haven't mentioned somebody, I just forgot. I lost the list, and it was about 34 people, and I came up with 28 right away that I put up together. But anyway, folks, those guys were my friends. They were my uncles. They were my mentor, and they taught me a lot about life, and some good things and some bad things too. We drank together, we laughed together, we cried together. Sometimes we went through a lot of stuff, and it was about, I would say, about 25 or 30 years of hanging out every Friday night, every Saturday night, and every Sunday. And on Father's Day, we would have a party down underneath where the High Line is now, and then we would actually have a party in September for the end of the season. The end of the summer season, we would even have a party for that. We would collect money, and we would make a party, and it was so much fun. It really was, and I miss those days. And like I said, I'm sitting here today reminiscing of what happened. There's nobody here playing dominoes today. The temperature's a little bit cool, But I miss those days, and I wish those days could come back. And of course, they never will. Anyway, folks, with that said, I hope this video, like I said, I just wanted to do this video to give you a little bit of history of my background, of my days in Chelsea. And I'm pretty sure everyone from Chelsea has a history, has a story, and that's my story. Like I said, it began in 446, and it continued in these parts, in these parks where I grew up with my best friend Tony, who passed away very young age, and it still continues. It continues to this day, and like I said, I'll see who's the last one of us that will leave this park and turn off the lights. Well, anyway, folks, with that said, I love you guys. I really do. I hope you guys watch my videos. I love Chelsea. I will always love Chelsea. I want to come back to Chelsea, and I have to do a video. I got to do a video about this a lady that I met, and she's a politician. She's running for city council in Chelsea, Community Board 3, and we've spoken I think once or twice, and it sounds very good for Chelsea. It really does. And so anyway, folks, that's the end of the video. I mentioned everybody's name. I love you guys. You guys were family to me, and I would miss you guys. And you guys, may you rest in peace. And someday when I get up there, I hope you guys are there playing dominoes and drinking, and I'll be up there. Not no time soon, but I'll be up there someday. So anyway, I love you guys. I love my Chelsea. Come see my videos called Chelsea in My Heart on YouTube. Please see my videos. Support my channel. And I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. I want to come back to Chelsea someday. Support the politicians that are trying to help Chelsea. And I love you guys. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Wear your mask. It's not over yet. And I'll see you guys soon, next week, with another video by Uncle Jesse.